It's true, isn't it? You see, I can give you hundreds of examples, but I won't because I haven't got time. But Moses was one. Moses had a stammer. And God said, I want you to be a preacher. I want you to lead the people. And he couldn't get a reply back properly. He stammered. He said, it's not me you want, God, it's my brother Aaron. And you know the story. And God wanted to choose a king. They all wanted the big guy, the head of the family, whose name I now forget. But God said, no, Eliab or something, whatever his name was. And they went down and they said to Mr. and Mrs. Jesse, do you have any more family? And they said, have we got any more family? They had so many, they were tired out, they'd lost their, you know, etc. Oh, why do I bother? And they said, there's little David, writing his songs, minding the sheep. God said, that's my man. Praise God. Unlikely people. There's others. Gideon. Good morning, Gideon, thou mighty man of valor, said the angel. And Gideon ignored him and thought he was talking to somebody else, because he certainly wasn't a mighty man of valor at the time. He was hiding from the Midianites and the Elamites and the Assemblies of Godites and all the otherites. But God saw something in Gideon that nobody else saw. Oh, I'm getting worked up here.
Keep going, Dave.
Thank you. When are you and I going on the road, Linda? Because we talked about this for years. Michelangelo looked at a block of marble that was cracked from top to bottom and saw something in that block of marble that nobody else could see. And what developed and what came out of it? One of the most beautiful statues the world has ever seen, the boy David. And an artist can look at a blank canvas and paint a wonderful constable or something of that nature. God sees stuff in people that you and I might pass by on the other side. Aren't you glad about that?
Yeah.
Aren't you glad? Because I look at myself, I look at others and think, well, how on earth did God choose us? But he chooses people that we sometimes... An unlikely... I must get on because this isn't a sermon. An unlikely person... I put super glue on the seats, by the way, so you can't go. An unlikely person, an unlikely place. Whoever's heard of Bootle, Steve? God. Samaria was a place where the Jews hated the Samaritans. It wasn't a nice place to go, and I'm not going to say any more than that, but God sent an unlikely person to an unlikely place with an unlikely prospect. Because in that city, in that area, was Simon the magician, the wizard, the witch. And he had everything in control. And God sent Philip, an unlikely, unpreached person, to an unlikely place with an unlikely prospect. And God said, with those three elements, putting them together, I think I can do something here. All right?
Yeah.
And that gives me hope. It gives me hope for Bootle. It gives me hope for my church. We're a posh, upper middle class town in Nantwich. You know, we don't mention we're attached to Crewe because that's the other side of the tracks, literally. We've got all we need. We've got jobs. We've got nice homes. We're all nice, educated people. But I want to tell you something. God says, I could do with getting a few of those sinners in that upper middle class town of Nantwich. That's right. Unlikely place. I often think of a young man who was dying of tuberculosis in a little country we'd hardly ever heard of at the time. He was a Buddhist. And an American missionary came and prayed for him. And Yonggi Cho got healed and got saved in a little place called South Korea. A Buddhist. God raised him up. Today's the pastor of one of the largest churches the world has ever seen. Praise God. So Steve, there's hope for Bootle. There's hope for this church. There's hope for Merseyside. Right, I'm on double time. It's 12 o'clock. Okay, 5 things. Let me give you them all so if I don't get through this, and I probably won't, this takes ages usually. I'm just warning you. I've got reams of paper here. He preached tremendous truth. Moulin Rouge, I heard. No, was it angels? He preached tremendous truth because he preached Christ to them. He had, and you've just come out of this stuff, he had a miraculous ministry. He met up with demonic deception. Lots of believers were baptized. And he ended up with Pentecostal power. And I believe, folks, this morning, those 5 things, what sort of church do I want? I've given you a list of some of the stuff, and you've got your list. But I believe unless we add these 5 things on to the church in Britain and UK today, we're not going to see the move of God that we're desperately wanting to see. Let me quickly go through those very quickly. There was great joy in the city because he brought truth to that city. We all pray and long for revival, but if this land of ours, if the church in this land, I mean the Lambeth Conference is meeting right now, and the Anglican Church, bless them, are split from top to bottom on so many areas. And the man in the street looks on at this, the bishops and the archbishops in their discussions. How many angels can dance on the point of a pin was a question in the medieval church. And we look on at some of the goings on in the established church whilst the world is starving. And the economy is going through the floor. Are you with me? When Philip went to Samaria, it says on more than one occasion, he preached Jesus, he preached Christ, he preached the kingdom of God. Friends, you and I, in our Pentecostal churches, I believe, have got to get back to the basic simplicity of the cross and Jesus and the divinity of Jesus and all the basics. Are you with me? Yeah. Pilate looked at Jesus one day. He said, "What is truth?" And Jesus said, "You're looking at it. For I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life." Now, I'm not going to bore you this morning with philosophy and stuff that's going on around us, but let me simply say this. We live in a society where truth has been stood on its head. You with me? Paul, writing to the Roman church in chapter 1 of Romans, said these words: "They, the world, have exchanged the truth, the truth of God for a lie." There's lots of lies around this morning. I can think of one off the top of my head, and I need to be careful. You know, the lie of some of the scientific explanations for creation, for example. Our kids are taught stuff in schools and colleges and universities that you and I don't agree with. Somewhere along the line, we believe that God created this world. It was good, he said. It didn't take billions and billions and billions of years. God created it. I won't go into all the details of that, but the lie out there is that evolution is the answer. Evolution is the lie. Creation is the answer.
Amen.
There's the lie that we are psychologically, chemically determined and we have no morality, so it doesn't matter how we live, it doesn't matter what we say, it doesn't matter what we do. We're victims of our circumstance. And Freud, back in the 19th century, discovered that because your mother hit you on the leg when you were 3, it destroyed the rest of your life. And you've lived with that abuse ever since, and it's not your fault. Oh, yes, it is. Yeah. We are moral beings. We can make a choice, right or wrong. Oh, there's so many others. The truth sets people free. And I know this man preaches truth. Isaiah said, "Truth has fallen in the streets, and men walk on it." This land of ours needs a good dose of truth.